The great thing about digital marketing, ingenuity and creativity can always win over big marketing budgets and smarty. I have been experimenting with Facebook and Instagram ads for a couple of months now, with no clue as to what I'm doing. But my guest today is going to help all of us out, so stick around. You have the power to be the boss of your own life. I'm your host, Monica Allen. I'm a wife, mom, entrepreneur, best-selling author, lifelong learner, and your biz bestie. I have a love and passion for all things small business. Growing my own company from $700 to over 7 figures annually, my goal is to bring you inspiration, business-focused topics and tips, encouragement, and a community that helps you launch, grow, and scale your business, whether you are a dreamer, a side hustler, or a seasoned entrepreneur. You are listening to the Become Your Own Boss podcast. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the Become Your Own Boss Planner. This planner can be started at any time of year. If you want to really know how to be boss of your life and live the life you desire, this is the planner for you. Breaking your goals down annually, monthly, and weekly, you will get them done. You can purchase yours at becomeyourownbossplanner.com or see the link in the show notes. On today's episode, I am bringing you my interview with Lionell Ball from Inflect Digital. Having consulted over $100 million in digital ads, Lionell and his business partner have worked for years on the inside at Facebook before bringing their insights and expertise to the world. They noticed a problem with the current state of marketing. There was too much of a focus put on campaign level metrics and not enough on an integrated view between the customer and actual marketing analytics. Moreover, they noticed a disturbing discrepancy between typical agency priorities and what is actually good for a client's business. They knew they could provide better value. Check out my interview with Lionell and get the inside scoop to running effective Facebook and Instagram ads. Lionell, I am so happy to have you join me on the podcast today.
Indeed, I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you. And I'm so excited to talk to you because I know that many of my listeners are curious about how to run Facebook and Instagram ads, me included. So let's just jump right in. Tell me first, what made you start your business, Inflect Digital?
I got a job at Facebook. In short, to make it simple, I got a job at Facebook and I didn't really know too much about the ad platform, on how it all works on the back end. I was actually a recruiter for Facebook. So I was just I knew what the job description was and what people, were required to do as account managers. And so I would basically work in that role. But then opportunity came where they were like, hey, would you like to leave the recruiting field and come into Facebook as an account manager, And so I was like, I wasn't really too sure. I didn't really want to do it, to be honest. I was like, I don't really want to do that. Let me think about it. And I was actually starting to look for other positions. And then finally, I just, kind of got out of my head, right? Got out of my own way and took the job as the account manager. And then when I was in there and I was working with all these different brands and kind of seeing how much money they were making and how much they were spending, then I was like, wow, I was really excited. And so that started my entrepreneurship thinking around Inflect Digital.
Love it. I know you initially started Inflect Digital as a side hustle. Tell me more about that process of being at Facebook and moving into your own business.
Right. So as I was there for about a year before I started my own agency, as it were. So I was really just learning, going deep in the fields with it, about how the algorithm works, the machine learning, different strategies, how people are building out their funnels, depending on what industry they're in, and kind of what were they seeing in terms of their traffic, in terms of their sales, in terms of their brand awareness, how are they thinking about offers, all those different things. How was their messaging being constructed and so forth? How are they speaking to their potential customers? So I was learning all of these different things from working with brands such as Oreo, or even some of the high level agencies that was managing these accounts. Essentially, that's who I would be speaking to and consulting on Facebook ads and Instagram ads. And so from there, once I feel like I had a good grasp on how it all worked, I then was like, well, if I'm consulting these, top 5 agencies in the US on how to, market for the clients that they had, like Oreo, Nike, whoever it may be, then no doubt I can, basically start my own agency. And so I did that, and I was, pretty much just kind of working on the side, first reaching out to people who I knew that were doing different things. And I'm like, hey, I've been working at Facebook. This is what I've learned. You really need to hire me, in other words, to run your ads for you so I can show you what is capable. Because a lot of people were still, they didn't really know how it worked. They were skeptical, all these different things. And so that's where the kind of, like you say, the side hustle started with that idea.
Love it. Well, I will say that I am still confused and trying to figure it out. So if you had 3 to 5 things we should know when it comes to using paid social channels or purchasing ads, what would those 3 to 5 things be that we should keep in mind?
I would say number 1, before you even run ads, you should have it figured out organically first, meaning that you've already seen success in one way or another. So maybe you've already built a community, or if you have an online store or a physical store, whatever it may be, you've already got customers, you got data, you got sales. So you're seeing revenue, and now you want to accelerate that. That's when you want to start thinking about, paid ads. But I never advise people to start with paid ads, because you can just waste a lot of money, essentially burn dollars. So first, build it organically, have something in place that's already working, because ads basically accelerate that.
Okay.
Yeah. So for example, there's a client that I work with, and before he started running ads, he was already doing 7 figures. He built a community over like 10 years, as it were. Now, I'm not saying that you have to wait that long, but I'm just saying this is one example where, he was already, kind of crushing it on his own. And then when I came in, when Inflect Digital came in, we basically accelerated that process for him to get new customers, because generally you want to get new people instead of selling to the same people that's already in your ecosystem, as it were.
Right. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Now, once we have it figured out organically, what are our next steps for deciding, okay, I'm going to run some Facebook ads, or I'm going to run some Instagram ads? What are the next steps to that process?
So you start thinking about, obviously the messaging is working because you got sales. So you think about, what does that messaging look like? What are they responding to like the most? What's that sweet spot, as it were, in terms of your messaging? And then maybe you have customers that purchase for different reasons. So there may be 3 different scenarios in which drive that. So you want to take that, and then you have your messaging. Then you want to take those sales that you have, and what Facebook allows you to do is import those sales into their backend. So what you're doing at that point is, let's say you have a list of 100 people or more, 1,000 people, whatever it may be. Once you tell Facebook, hey, here's a list, you CSV file, you import it, you're basically telling Facebook, these are the people that have purchased from me. So let's say you have, a customer who spent $5,000 with you over the past 12 months. Maybe someone else only spent $1,000. So you can start to kind of put your customers in different buckets in terms of that lifetime value over 12 months. And as you're importing this information into Facebook, they now know who your customers are, because they can take those demographics as you upload that information, their age, all those different things, where they live, etc. And then Facebook will take that profile and find more people like them based on their Facebook user ID. So they'll do all that on the back end. They're doing all the heavy lifting with that. And so you'll create what we call a lookalike audience. And Facebook will find 2.4 million people that is similar to that profile that you imported. And so now is when you start to reach out to new prospects that are similar to your most valued customers. And you can start to chop that up in many different ways.
Okay, so now that opens up a lot of questions for me in regards to, okay, these people that are in this CSV file, I say CVS, CSV file, you have their information. Is it that you just have their name and basic information and then Facebook can kind of correlate that? Or have you collected all this data from them, like their age and stuff? So which one is it?
Yeah. So for example, let's say I have a list and I have, Lionell, I'm on the list. I know that Lionell purchased these, 3 items from me. Maybe it was an immunity product and, some a vitamin, whatever the case may be. So Lionell, I'm on that list. My email is on that list, probably my phone number, different things that you gather as a business owner. What's some of that information that you gather? Do you gather their age when they're signing up for something or whatever the case may be, or when they're buying something? So whatever information you have in that regard, because if you're shipping them something, you probably have their address, different things like that. So what Facebook do is match their name and their email. So the email that I use to sign up for my Facebook account, if it's the same that I use when I purchase, Facebook can match that. And everyone has a unique user ID, Facebook user ID, Instagram user ID. And so on the back end, they find those identifiers and say, okay, this is this person. And then they can look at, okay, what do I like when I'm on Instagram? They know when you comment on different things, what your interests are, what pages you follow, what Instagram people you follow. So they know all of that information. That's all aggregated for them on their back end. And so that's how they say, okay, so these people right here have purchased from, X, business owner. Well, let's find more people that's similar to these profiles that may also be interested based on that.
Wow.
That cleared up a little bit.
That cleared it up perfectly. And also helps me understand why so many of these apps are like, do you want to sign in with your Google account? Do you want to sign in with your Facebook account? Did not know that. Okay. Yes. So, wow.
So when you purchase, for example, I've seen an ad on Instagram or Facebook and purchase an item before. Mm-hmm. So they also have your credit card or debit card information hashed. It's all hashed, so it's private and so forth, but it's information that they have. And so when you make those purchases, they know that you're the kind of person that buys. So like on Facebook, on the back end, there's a targeting option called Engage Shoppers. And that particular targeting option lets you know that these people have purchased something within the last 30 days. So they clicked on an ad and actually bought something. So you can use that particular interest or behavior as a targeting option when you run your ads.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm doing this all wrong, but that's because I have no idea what I'm doing. So that is why you're on this show, to help us all. Okay. Wow, that's amazing. And I mean, I'm sure there are other people out there who know this stuff, and maybe I'm just the one who has no idea, but wow, that's very interesting to me. So what are the advantages of hiring someone like you to manage this for me?
Right. Basically, because, I've been in the weeds with it, right? I've seen so much in terms of my experience while at Facebook. I was at Facebook for 3 years. My business partner as well, he was at Facebook for 4 years. And so we obviously met there at Facebook and ended up starting Inflect Digital. So I should, just to add a little bit before I get into that, when I first started my agency, it wasn't Inflect Digital. It was like me doing my own thing. I had a marketing agency and I didn't have a partner. So I was just kind of just doing my own thing. Eventually, when it was a shuffle that happened at Facebook where I ended up on a different team. Mm-hmm. So that's where I met Anna Roop Kumar, my business partner, and we then got together, created Inflect Digital from there. And so what we always say is, based on our experience of working with so many different accounts, so many different, industries, different markets, different, services, all those different things, we've gained so much experience from that, we can make decisions within 3 days, for example, on a campaign that we may implement. And we understand based on the data that we're looking at, whether it's going to succeed or whether we should cut it off and make adjustments. So that's one of the benefits, is that we know, what's working. We're pretty quick at that, opposed to sometimes it may take someone else a week or 2 weeks or whatever the case may be before they realize, like, oh, okay, wait, we actually need to make some changes based on what we've implemented and so forth. And then also too, there's just nuances in terms of the algorithm. We don't always just focus on the campaign metrics. We have like a holistic approach or an integrated approach. So we also know that, because with iOS updates, for example, there's a lot of changes happening in the ecosystem where, people opt out of tracking.
Right.
When you download an app, and if you have an Apple phone, they say, do you want this app to track you?
Right.
So that causes challenges, because you may be looking at a campaign and see that, oh, this campaign hasn't gotten any sales. It's because it's not being reported. There's a delay because of this. And so you may turn that campaign off. 2-3 days go by and you realize, oh, wait, no, I was doing a 6X. Like this thing actually had like 6 sales, but you turned it off prematurely. And when you turn it off, you lose the learning that it had gained. And so whenever you turn a campaign off, it then has to go back through a learning phase. And so these are all those nuances that a person can run into if they're not familiar with exactly what to look for and turn things off prematurely, or, so forth and so on.
Wow. Yeah. Well, thanks for that insight, because yes, this is all so new to me, but I love the fact that you said the first thing is to make sure you have it figured out organically first.
Yes.
Because then you have that data from your customer.
Right.
Okay. That is very helpful.
We like to say you have a head start if you have data already to go off of, because you help Facebook algorithm learn quicker. Facebook has a lot of data and so forth, but if you have your own data, that's actually more important. We always say you don't always want to depend on the platform. You
Right.
want to have your own data sources to guide their algorithm and learning who you want to get in front of.
Okay. Great. Okay. This is so good. So another question for you, because you have your agency. There are other agencies out there. People may want to work with someone local. What should we look out for when we are hiring an ads manager or an ad agency?
I would say there has to be alignment. I always say cultural alignment. Depending on your market and your customers, you will want the agency to understand that market, those cultural nuances, because that's going to be important for your messaging. There may be certain headlines, certain phrases that resonate with your customer culturally that a particular agency may not be aware of. And then two, you'll find where some agencies charge you based on, how much you're spending, that kind of thing. And so depending on their business model too, I'll give you an example. When I was at Facebook, there was an agency, and long story short, we were basically sharing with them that, hey, you can get this job done for, $30,000 based on what their goals were, their objectives and so forth. And they were like, oh no, we got to spend the whole $60,000 because that's what we have for budget. And so they were incentivized to spend more money because that's how they were getting paid. Right. So so that's when we saw a gap in the market. We're like, okay, we're not going to do that. We're not going to charge you based on how much you're spending. We're going to take into account what's the stage of the business. What should you really be spending? And two, like, for example, if let's say your budget was $3,000 a month to spend just on ads, we wouldn't say, okay, because the budget is 3,000, I'm going to spend that whole 3,000. It has to make sense.
Gotcha.
Maybe it only makes sense to spend 1,500 that first month because everything is not just fine-tuned or figured out yet from an ad perspective. So all those different things you would want to take into consideration. And I think that's what I would start with. Yeah.
Okay. And how do you all do your setup for your clients? And well, actually, let me ask this question first. So you're helping your clients with their copy as well, as far as their ads? Okay.
Yeah. So we write the copy out because, for social channels, it's a little bit different in terms of like what resonates on the platform, what we've seen to work best in that regard versus, let's say, an email copy would be a little bit different. So yes, we do all the writing. We take whatever the brand elements are, whatever the brand voice is, we'll get that as a baseline, and then we'll come up with the actual copy that we're going to use for the ads itself.
Gotcha. And so are clients paying you like on a retainer? How are you all different?
Yeah, so we go with the retainer route. So depending on how many channels we're going to be, managing, what's the full scope, in other words. So for some clients, we may only do Facebook and Instagram. That's been our calling card, right? Because we've worked there. But we've also expanded since then to where we manage the Google ads for clients as well. TikTok, depending on the brand, that demographic may work well, depending on what market you're in. And other, LinkedIn, for example, too. We have a SaaS company that is a nonprofit organization that looks for, different people that's in a certain position, I would say. They look for people that's in a certain position. And LinkedIn is pretty good with that. You can do that specific type of targeting based on job title.
Okay.
So depending on the business, that may be a channel that you need us to manage. And then also, if you want us to manage your email as well. And so, so we can do all of that. And so at the very minimum, with some clients where they're not needing all of that and they're just dependent on the stages, like I'll give you another example. We have a client right now, and where she's at in her stage of the business is, where she's not doing too much, just Facebook and Instagram. And we do a flat rate of just $1,000 to manage that because there's not a lot involved based on where she's at right now. But she is building out a new product where she's going to, we'll be progressing towards that. And then once the scope expands, we then revisit, what that monthly retainer looks like.
Gotcha. I have a question from a listener. And the question is, how can we trust that what Google and Facebook is telling us in regards to number of clicks and cost per click and all that stuff? How can we trust that?
Right. So we set up, UTM parameters. So you think about Google Analytics and also in the Facebook campaign itself, as you set up these UTMs and different things of that nature, you can actually track in Google Analytics who's getting credit for what, like whether was it from Google, was it from Facebook? And so that's how we manage it. We also use Google Tag Manager to track certain button clicks and, all these different kind of things. And so that's how we manage, what's being attributed to Facebook, what's being attributed to, Instagram, Google, LinkedIn, whatever the case may be. And even with that said, because of those iOS updates with all the tracking issues, it's not 100%, accurate, but, we're using the best tools that we have to manage that and figure out what's what.
Okay. And so what does UTM stand for? Did you tell me that?
UTM is basically like honestly, I forget the exact, it's a technical term, but it's basically a tag. It's a tag that you use and you say, so this campaign may say Facebook ad 1, because we may have 5 different ads. So we'll say Facebook ad 1, and then we'll say campaign code traffic audience 1. And then the next UTM parameter may be Facebook ad 2, etc. And so it's basically a organizing mechanism so you can track, what's what.
Gotcha. Okay. And I'll Google it. I'll look up what that means, just so the audience will know too.
Yes, in fact, what I'm doing right now is so it's called a urchin tracking module.
Okay, great.
So it's an urchin tracking module. So basically, yeah. So it's an organizational tool basically, so you can track those different things.
Gotcha. But if we currently are managing some of our Facebook ads and Google ads ourselves, then we're just trusting what they say if we aren't using those specific tags, right? We're just trusting that what they tell us.
Yes. And some people do what we call a hold test in the industry, which is you can turn your ads off, like, and see what's the effect on the overall. Let's say if you have a Shopify store. We've done this where, we don't do it anymore because we just, you just know basically at that point. But we've been in a situation where we turn ads off and sales just go way down.
Right.
And so then, like I had a client one time, he said, Facebook is not taking enough credit for the sales that I'm getting. And the reason why that's crucial is because you do want whatever platform is getting those sales, you want it to take credit because it actually helps their algorithm. So the more sales you're getting on a campaign, the more learning kicks in.
Gotcha.
For that campaign. So if it's not getting attributed those sales, it actually is a negative, because it doesn't help optimize, that campaign.
That makes sense. It's hindering the algorithm from learning who your customer is. That makes sense. One of the things that you mentioned in kind of your write-up is that you didn't quite feel like you all positioned yourselves correctly initially. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So for me, I was just excited, right? Because I felt like I've learned something of value, developed a skill set that can help anyone. And so I approached the market, with like a wide net, if you will. Like, look, I know Facebook ads. I know how to target. I know how to set up the tracking. We're not just throwing things at the wall hoping to stick. We can actually tell you that, hey, we spent $8,000 and made you $100,000. Like, we can track that, right? And so with that mindset, I'm thinking, it doesn't matter. If you got a business, you need my services. You can hire me. Like, I can help you. I can help you make money. But a lot of people who don't understand, that realm of marketing when it comes to social, it may not resonate with them. They may be skeptical with, you understand, when someone's not used to something or it's new to them, they're a little bit hesitant. And so instead of trying to pitch everybody, we learned in time that, okay, wait, who is our people, so to speak? Like who's already spending money on Facebook ads or at least, have an inkling about, hey, I need to do this. And so that was where we started, though, just trying to pitch everybody. And it just, a lot of people I saw a live that you did the other day where you talked about someone question your prices or whatever the case may be. Yes. And it's just, sometimes you don't want to be too harsh on people, but it's like, yeah, you don't go into the Gucci store or into Rolex store and like question their prices. Yeah,
that's very true. Yes, that was one of those things that last week it was kind of just back to back. It was interesting, how the universe works, right? Where you just kind of get hit back to back with things. And I'm just like, seriously? Yeah, you're not going into Louis V talking like this, but it's okay.
For sure. So what was interesting is I left Facebook in August 2019.
Okay.
Now we know, the pandemic happened like right after that. So it was really like, whoa, wait, was this right timing? In that process, I even was like, okay, I got to go find, work. I got to because a lot of the clients that we had started to work with were tech startups who were getting funded by, venture capitalists who were then like, whoa, we don't know where the market's going. We're going to hold off on
pull that money right capital. On back.
Yes. Yeah. And so this client, our biggest client, was like, we can't pay you. And so we, started to kind of rethink things. But like shortly after that, we just started getting, a ton of work because a lot of people that, still saw it as an opportunity to ramp up their spending because the ad cost was cheap at that point because so many people were holding back.
Mm-hmm.
And so we then developed a relationship with a venture capitalist out of Atlanta who ended up referring to us one of their portfolio clients because they were, still spending and so forth. And from there, we just started to niche down in the tech space. So, e-commerce, SaaS companies, that kind of market, artists, entrepreneurs, high level athletes who were, starting their own businesses. We started to develop those kinds of relationships within kind of propelled us, gave us the momentum that we were seeking, as it were. And so that's where we're at now. It's like you reach that point of momentum and it's like, oh, wow, this is what I was trying to get to. And so it's very fulfilling and, you feel like you achieved something great. But so that's where we're at right now.
Now, that is really good. And, I think so many of us, when we go into business, a lot of times we don't want to do the niche thing, right? We want to be all things to all people. And it just really doesn't work because you gotta prove yourself somewhere. And if you can find that right niche, then you prove yourself there and then you can expand from there. With our first company, we only sold jackets to fraternities and sorority members. That was it. We weren't trying to sell anything but jackets. But because we proved ourselves in jackets, then people were like, hey, well, can you make my sweatshirt? Can you make my t-shirt? And we're like, sure. So then it ended up like people who aren't even Greek are like, wow, well, you can make all this great stuff for Greeks. Can you make this for my company? Can you make this for my music video? Can you make this for my movie? And so that opens you up to so many things once you've proven yourself in a market space.
Yes. And I wish we would have went into it with that mindset.
But you learned so quick. That was good. You learned quick. Some people are down that rabbit hole for 3-4 years. You guys learned really quick. So that's good.
Absolutely. We went to Afrotech conference back in February 24th. And so, we were there. We're like you said, we know who our people are now. So we made a lot of great connections there. We're also starting to move into, we're going into Web3. So we talk about the metaverse. What are ads going to look like in the metaverse? What are ads going to look like with NFTs? Mark Zuckerberg just announced that you're going to be able to mint NFTs on Instagram in the near future. So now we're delving into, I know. It's like now we're going into that space, but I feel like we were even late to Facebook and Instagram, if you will, because, you were really on it back in like 04, 05, 06, 07. Like you really would have saw the upside of that. And I feel like that's where we're at right now with Web3. If we just dive in now and just start to learn and educate ourselves about it as much as possible, we can actually be on the upside of that, in the beginning of its stages.
I know the listeners couldn't see me, but I put my hand over my head because the metaverse NFT stuff just like, woo, but I will say I'm working on it. I mean, anytime I have an opportunity to listen to someone talk about it, I will listen. I'm not burying my head in the sand. I'm just trying to better understand it. And I need like a really nice, simple booklet that just explains it in like diagrams for me. I don't know. I just need it to be real simple. So if somebody could create that, that would be a great lead.
Somebody's actually working on it too. I'll send you her page. Her name is Elise Swoops, and she's an NFT artist. And I met her when I was in Miami, and she just posted yesterday that she's working on a booklet for that. Because literally, she just posted this yesterday.
That's because there's a gap in the market because that's what some of us need to understand this. Like,
right. No, for sure.
That's great. Now, I know you and I have a lot in common, both being raised by single moms and being one of the first in our immediate family to graduate from college. How do you think that growing up like that has impacted you and your business?
You have to be resourceful, right? You're constantly thinking about that, I feel, when you grow up under those circumstances. And so with that always being, I feel like in the forefront of your mind, then that's what actually gives you somewhat of that edge, because you're constantly like being on top of things, being resourceful, trying to figure things out. And so as you keep that kind of hunger, you keep that kind of grind about yourself, eventually you're going to achieve something great, because you have that mindset. And I feel like for me, that's what happened. And once I found what I found today, it's like, oh, okay, I've always had the grind and the grit and, the wherewithal to, get my hands dirty, so to speak. Now it's just a matter of like, now how do I package all of that and present it to the market based on the skill set that I have now when it comes to marketing? All the things I've done over the years, I feel prepared me for where I'm at today.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you're in a great space. You have your niche, people need it.
Right.
We all need the help, because I've learned so much just in this conversation alone today. And so I know I'm not doing some things right. And I know you have a 30-minute free call or assessment. We can talk about that in a minute, that I probably need to sign up for.
No, for sure. Yeah, there's so many different things you can do. There's also a tool called custom audiences. Facebook and Instagram, you're probably familiar with that, but you can, if you have a huge following, for example, you can literally tell Facebook, hey, everyone that follows me, create that as a custom audience for me, so I can target them with a specific, product or service or message. Because as we know, organically, when you post, everyone that follow you don't see it, right?
No,
so it's like a pay to play situation. And trust me, I bark at that too, but at the same time, it's like, it's no way around it. This is just the market, is the eco that we're in. So you're going to have to pay to play. But that's one thing that they allow you to do. They also have a free tool called the Facebook Pixel. It's basically a snippet of code that you can place on the back end of your website. And what that let Facebook know is everyone that visits your site. So you have your own store analytics, whether you use Shopify, Squarespace, whatever it is. So you have your analytics that you can see, but Facebook don't know what's happening on your website. And so you need to put that code on the back end of your website. So now every time someone visits your site, that information is going back to Facebook, and you can create a custom audience based on everybody that visited your website in the last 6 months or the last 3 months, whatever you want to do. And that's a free tool. The Facebook Pixel doesn't cost you anything to, get that.
Yeah, I've seen that. And I've actually put that on a website before. But anyway, yeah, I'll have to chat with you more about that. At the bottom of your email, you have why it pays to pay. What does that mean?
Yes, it's interesting you bring that up. I guess, what I was just mentioning before, pay to play, that's kind of what the message is behind that, where, it pays to pay because, like I mentioned earlier, one of our case studies or success stories that we have as a client where, we spent $8,000 and we made them $100,000. So that's the message behind it, why it pays to pay. You're going to benefit. You're going to, it's going to be profitable if you're working with the right team and you have the right resources. You've got it figured out. You have it dialed in, right? Then it definitely pays to pay. But I always mention, as I did in the beginning, where start organically, because you have to, like you mentioned too, even with once you prove something, like niche down, because once you have that proof of concept, you can then, market it to the masses.
Right. And one of the things I tell people, when just like the first step of business to me is market validation. So no matter what you're doing, a lot of people may say, okay, well, you need to go get business cards and you need to do your website and you got to get your bank account and all that. But to me, before you do any of that stuff, because that's time and money, is you just need market validation. You need to put it out there and you actually need to sell something. If you've sold it to someone other than your mom,
right,
and you probably can sell it. You know what I mean? Because mom's going to buy it, typically.
Yes. You need that market validation because there's a lot of ideas, but to actually execute on that and have that proof of concept, then, that's really where it's, like you mentioned, where it starts.
Right. That's where the business begins for sure. Well, Lionell, I have truly enjoyed this conversation. Tell people what's the best way for them to reach you if they need your services.
Yes, my email is my first name, Lionell, Lionell @inflectdigital.com. You can also find me on Instagram, LB the Connector. So that's LB the Connector. You can find me there as well.
Gotcha.
And of course, my website, inflectdigital.com.
Great. And I'll make sure I link to all of that in the show notes so people can find you and get your services. But this has been so good. I am sure I will probably have more questions as I go back and listen to this. So I may be sending you some follow-up questions. But
feel free. Please do. And I'll respond. And then I also have some success stories I can share with you as well.
Yeah, this has been so good because really you taught me a lot of things. First thing I've learned is that I need to stop running my Facebook ads because I don't know what I'm doing. So that's the first thing. Yeah. And then second thing is book a call with you.
No, for sure. For sure. I'd love to have that conversation.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it.
Indeed, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much and look forward to chatting again soon.
Definitely. Thanks, Lionell, for being a part of the Become Your Own Boss podcast and sharing your insight. You can find his contact and website information in the show notes. Thank you for listening today. I hope Lionell's tips help you with your decision to run ads, your ad strategy, and whether to engage a digital marketing agency or agent. If you have any comments or questions, you can email me at monica@monicaallen.com. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Become Your Own Boss Podcast. Take a moment, if you haven't already, to share, rate, subscribe, and leave a review to the podcast. This helps the podcast continue to grow. Now is the time to level up, leave a legacy, and become your own boss.